So I thought it would be fun with Mother's Day on the horizon here coming up this week to look at the best and yes, maybe some of the worst moms in Haddonfield or in the wider Halloween franchise, as it were. So, as we've done before, I've rounded up a couple that are some of my picks for some of the better moms and maybe some of the not so better. And again, this is not an exhaustive list, but that's where you're going to come in. You're going to help fill in the gaps of who I might have forgotten, and also help give me your thoughts on are these good moms or not so good moms from the parental standpoint, from the franchise standpoint. We're going to start with we will start with my pick for the worst mom in Haddonfield. And that is one of the most recent. That is, of course, Corey Cunningham's mom, Joan. And this is still actually from a deleted scene, unfortunately, deleted scene from Halloween Ends. And I, you've seen Halloween Ends, and just what you see on screen, she is pretty terrible to Corey, and just pretty much not much redeeming quality to be found there. And but man, if you have read the novelization, wow, it is unbelievable. What a monster she really is. The novelization by our friend Paul Brad Logan for Halloween Ends goes much deeper on the true just damage that this woman inflicted on Corey, and it makes her demise in the movie. Um, I gotta say, just that much more. Um, well, if ever there was a justified kill, it might be that one. And again, there's a great deleted scene included on the Halloween Ends Blu-ray, which is the full kill scene that you don't see of Corey's mom in the film. And man, it's probably the deleted scene that I wish they had kept in more than any other one. It's so good, and there's trick or treaters outside the house, and they're just yelling for candy and getting all rowdy, and it's an awesome scene. And it's just one of those where you're just really kind of well, you're rooting for somebody to get it because man, what a monster she was. So yeah, let's get that one out the way. Now there's not a ton of mom uh, characters in the first three films, really. The what I'll call the Carpenter Hill trilogy, if you will. Of course, we could talk about Michael's mom. She does show up there for a few seconds in the opening scene, which would not, I mean, would not classify her as good mom, just in what we see just for a little bit, because um, this always gets me every single time I've watched the movie 800 times. And I know it's supposed to be a tableau and it's artistic and everybody's kind of frozen in place, but it's always funny that the mom, she doesn't stay completely frozen as Carpenter pans out. Now you actually see her put her hand in her pocket, just kind of, oh well, Michael just murdered his sister. They're in shock though, right? But no, we're not gonna talk about that one. We could talk about the mom in H2. At the beginning of H2, taking the little boy into the hospital with he's bitten into some candy and bitten into a razor. But no, we're gonna go again to Santa Mira, and we are going to talk about Halloween 3 because there is a mom in Halloween 3 of note, and she's actually a franchise icon the great Nancy Loomis. Um, this is, of course, Linda Chalice, Dan Chalice's ex-wife and mother to his two kids. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh man, she's such a drag. She's so annoying in that movie. She's so just nagging, and that is how the film presents her, of course. But it's also pretty much because she is that way to Dr. Dan Chalice. But let's be honest, everybody. I mean, I think we can agree that Dan Chalice probably was not the greatest husband to begin with. And just from what we see in the movie, he's not even the greatest dad. Just from what we get in that movie, and but Linda, on the other hand, for all of her nagging and annoying Dan throughout the film, let's not forget that Linda came through where it counted most with the kids and their silver shamrock masks. That's right. She didn't show up with the cheap generic version. She got them the silver shamrocks that they really wanted. And really, I mean, isn't isn't that what matters most? And again, yeah, I know that if she had gotten them the generic masks, then maybe they wouldn't have had their heads explode at the end. We don't know if they exploded at the end. We don't know what happened at the end, but they wouldn't have been in danger. I know, but they also wouldn't have had the thrill of wearing those silver shamrock masks and being there for the big giveaway. So, for those reasons, for coming through on the silver shamrock masks, I'd say Linda Chalice is actually one of Haddonfield's better moms. Moving on to the next era of Halloween films into the 90s, how about this Haddonfield mom? How about Deborah Strode, played by Kim Darby? Now, this is actually one of my favorite moms in the franchise. I mean, I hate seeing her get walked all over by her asshole husband. And again, yeah, we'll talk about him when we do this for Haddonfield's best and worst dads. But but gosh, I hated seeing her get it when she gets the axe out in the among the laundry, the clotheslines. But again, is she a good mom or a bad mom? Don't really see much wrong with her throughout what we see on screen anyway. But other than the fact that she's not really standing up for herself as much as maybe she should, but she does try to support Kara, it seems like, and she certainly doesn't get that from her dad, John Strode, who definitely has everything he's got coming his way. I don't feel like Deborah deserved the fate that she got. You guys tell me what you think about Deborah Strode. Moving right along, let's talk about another Deborah, Deborah Myers in Rob Zombie's Halloween, of course, played by Sherry Moon Zombie. Good mom, bad mom. I mean, she's maybe not role model mom material for Judith, I mean, but yeah, she works as a stripper at Rabbit and Red, but she's making ends meet, doing what she's got to do. Certainly not a good judge of character as far as boyfriends. She brings Ronnie into their house, and he treats all of them like complete crap. But I mean, you could argue she's a pretty good mom when it comes to Michael. She's trying. When the school comes in, she's pretty fired up and defending him, and definitely heartbreaking when she sees that he's completely lost, and she witnesses that murder here right after this scene in Smith's Grove, and but then that most heartbreaking scene in the entire film, maybe when she of course offs herself, you know, that gunshot, and I I I can feel her anguish after losing Judith, after basically losing Michael. But to leave baby Lori there, baby Lori screaming, crying. She could have ran away with baby Lori, started over somewhere, left the evil behind, maybe. But nope, nope. Wasn't meant to be. So, for those reasons, sorry, Deborah, bad mom. Not because you're a stripper, not because you're not a role model, not because you have terrible taste in men, but because you couldn't stick around for baby Lori. She needed you. Um, let's move in to, again, the most recent era, the Blumhouse trilogy, the David Gordon Green trilogy, what I call sometimes the Strode trilogy of films. Maybe the era with the most motherhood representation of any of these films. We already talked about one of them, the worst, with Corey's mom. But how about the first mom we meet in that film? A new resident of Haddonfield, Mrs. Allen, of course, Jeremy's mom, played by our friend Candace Rose. Check out my interview with her from last year if you haven't already, elsewhere on the channel. We might play a little flashback to that here in a couple minutes. Um, but how about Jeremy's mom? Good mom or bad mom? You guys tell me what you think. I mean, she certainly, you can't fault her for wanting to go out, have a good time, get in the spirit of Halloween. We love that. They go out, come home, obviously, who wouldn't be destroyed and who wouldn't be triggered every Halloween? I mean, cut to a couple years later, she has that heartbreaking scene with Corey where she sees him and she's still wearing the same costume she was wearing on that fateful Halloween night. So she's so tortured. Her marriage has fallen apart during all that time. It clearly destroyed them. But does that make her a bad mom? Or does that just make her a destroyed mom? I mean, I I, I would argue, a lot of that rage pointed at Corey. It's not justified, but it's understandable. It's definitely understandable. Um, so so again, I don't think she's necessarily a bad mom. I think she's just an incredibly crushed and destroyed mom. And Candace did an awesome job portraying her in both this scene when you first meet her as like the super just carefree, and then of course a couple of years later just a total different person. Really great performance in that film. Um, so moving into the home stretch here, how about these moms? A tale of two Laurie Strode moms. That's right. I mean, we've seen Laurie Strode be a mom in two different eras. There's the H2O version of Laurie Strode mom, and then there's, of course, the 2018 version of Laurie Strode as mom and grandma, for that matter. And you guys tell me what you think, but I kind of feel like H2O mom is the better if we're looking at parenthood. Now, as a fan of the films and the franchise and of these characters, I like the 2018 version of Lori better to watch as entertainment. But if I'm judging on parenthood, I think the H2O Lori is much more well adjusted, and I think John Tate is much more well adjusted in that film than Karen, and they, as strained as their relationship, John and Jamie's or Carrie's in that movie, may be in H2O. Um, it's nothing like as strained as Karen and Jamie's in 2018. So I would say H2O. Lori Mom has the edge. Of course, 2018 Lori Mom. Uh, we know from the film, social services takes Karen at a pretty young age, but she does, you know, I'd say H2O Mom 2018 Lori, her greatest gift to Karen is, of course, training her and instilling that training that even though she didn't believe it, even though she tried to leave it behind when it counted most at that gotcha moment, she she pulled through. Karen did because of the training. So in that way, 2018 Lori did a kick-ass parenting job in that way. Um, but in most other ways, I'd say H2O Lori um, has the edge, and of course, her defining moment, getting the kids to safety, and then going back to face the boogeyman, face her demons, face her brother, and that. Love all that. But while we're talking about the Strode moms, I mean, we've got to talk about Karen as well. I've said here before that Karen was a character that in 2018, I didn't love the character very much, and didn't even find her all that interesting until that gotcha moment. And then at that moment, she became one of the most interesting characters in the entire franchise at that moment. And then in going into Kills, that was kind of her movie in so many ways. And I would argue her defining good mom moment, it's got to be saving Allison in the finale of Kills. Allison's fighting with Michael, and here comes Karen with the pitchfork, and of course takes his mask, draws him away to what she thought, foolishly, albeit, would be the end of the shape. Of course, it wasn't, and, but she saved Allison and Lori, for that matter, for the time being in that movie. So, all that being said, all of these Haddonfield mothers, there's one more that I think might be the best of them all. I was thinking about it all day, like which of these moms would is the coolest, is like the most down to earth, is the the least traumatized, maybe, the least abusive in the case of Corey's mom. And then it hit me. Oh, yeah, it's got to be. It's got to be Laurie's mom, Cynthia Strode, in Rob Zombie's Halloween remake, of course, played by the legendary Dee Wallace. She's so likable in that movie, in every scene that she's in. And then it got me thinking of her and Laurie's dad in that movie. And they're so believable and just actually one of the few just seconds of kind of lightheartedness in that remake, which is so oppressive in so many other ways. And their performances are great. And they're just kind of believable as just suburban Midwest parents in what is very much otherwise very often a very heightened type of Rob Zombie universe. And of course, the fact that it's Dee Wallace, I mean, that's E.T.'s mom, that's Cujo's mom, that's the quintessential genre mom. So of course, Laurie Strode's mom. So yeah, if I gotta pick a best tonight, and again, I could change my mind tomorrow. You guys might come up with a suggestion that totally changed my mind. But yeah, I can't think of a better mom in Haddonfield than Cynthia Strode, circa Halloween 2007, and talk about heartbreaking moments. Yeah, her death, so brutal, and just gutting to watch. Speaking of the great Dee Wallace, we got to meet Dee a couple times actually over the years, but for the first time it was almost 10 years ago, back 9 years ago in 2016 at Mad Monster Party out in Charlotte. And here's a throwback photo of myself interviewing Dee back then, and she was awesome to talk to us. There we are again. You can check out that interview with Dee Wallace also in the interview section at HalloweenDailyNews.com, and I'll put a link down in the description of this video. Now, again, I know this is not every mom in Haddonfield or even in the wider Halloween movies multiverse, and that's why now I turn it over to you. Tell me who I've forgotten. Tell me which one of these I might have gotten wrong. Do you agree or disagree? What good moms and bad moms have we missed, and can you add to this discussion? I want to hear from you guys on the best and worst mothers of Haddonfield right now in the comments.